Welcome back, everybody. This is the Athlete Hackers Podcast. My name is Chris Schrade.
And I'm Mark Spellman.
Today's episode is the importance of a routine on performance.
So, if anybody did not see it yesterday, Thor, Man Mountain from Games of Thrones, deadlifted 501 kilograms. Yeah, it's a lot of weight. It was like 1,104.5 pounds.
That's crazy.
To break the world record that was held by Eddie Hall.
Which guy was that? That was the, he was one
Man
of the
Mountain.
knights.
Man Mountain from Games of Thrones.
Yeah, he's one of the knights.
Yeah, Thor, the big one. The guy that would smush people's heads.
Yeah. Two or three different guys actually played that character through the series from what I remember.
Yeah, but he's the most well known. He's also a multi-time world's strongest man.
He was the one at the end, right? The last episode.
Yeah. So I watched it yesterday because there's no sports on, and it got me thinking about not only the process but the importance of routine, because he did 3 separate deadlifts, and every deadlift he went through the same process before he tried to lift the weight. And I was like, if you think about it, like basketball players, when they shoot free throws,
yep,
they usually go through the same process and the importance of that process. So that, that's how we got to this topic. So Man Mountain, he would he'd put on his lift shirt, he'd put on his t-shirt, he'd put on his one belt, then he'd put on his next belt. He'd go up to the platform, he'd chalk his hands. His coach or teammate would pull his ears, and then he would smell some smelling salts, and then he would put the wraps on, and then he would lift the weight. And he did that each time. It was the same thing every time. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But also it shows the importance to routine, because it's probably the same way he does it every time he's in practice. It's probably the same way he's done it for the last 5 to 10 years. So it makes it a routine for him, and it's something that is familiar to him. And that has to do with the importance of how the athletes feel when they're doing something. So routine, you would see a basketball player. I mean, I think everybody's watching The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary,
yep,
the Chicago Bulls, or videotaping it so they can watch it later, whatever. But it's the routine. Coach Wooden at UCLA, he would tell his players how to dress properly, how to put on your socks, how to put on your uniform, how to tie your shoes. And he did that, especially with the socks. He did it so they wouldn't get blisters. So, if you've ever had a blister on your foot, trying to run up and down the court with a blister on your heel or on your foot, it's not that fun, and it takes you away from what you're supposed to be doing. So the importance of having a routine and staying with it. If the routine doesn't work, try a different routine so that you can get into that flow state of performance, which is an optimal arousal state. If you have a graph, there's on one side arousal, on the X there's arousal, on the Y there's performance. As the arousal level goes up, there's a peak line of performance, but if the arousal goes higher than that level, the performance comes down. So for myself as a swimmer, if I went into a race very relaxed and very calm, I swam very well. But if I went into it overhyped, that I was swimming some guy that I had to beat or something like that, I usually didn't swim that well. So it really got into that point of understanding what I needed to do in order to perform at the highest level possible. If you watch like Michael Phelps in the Olympics, he did the same thing every time. I think what you see with elite performers, they understand the importance of a routine, and you see that with their performance. They'll do the same thing before they perform every time. I mean, So
I think there's something to be said for efficiency too. With a routine, things become more efficient. You cut out things that you don't need. Uh, First thing that comes to mind is the legend that Albert Einstein had the same set of clothes that he wore every single day, and that was so that he didn't have to spend brain power on choosing what to wear. You know, he could start thinking about something else because putting on his clothes, choosing what he wanted to do was routine because they were the same thing.
he could think of something relative.
Yeah. And as you could see for the viewers out there, Mark and I have the same philosophy when it comes to our hair. We don't have to do our hair in the morning
We're efficient.
because we're bald.
But I mean, I think also during this pandemic, I think a lot of people that are having problems with it have, because they're not in their routine. Well, okay, yeah, I understand your day to day is probably not what you're used to, but get into a routine that you're comfortable with and that will set you up for success. We were sitting on the deck last night with the kids. We just got a new fire table, so my wife's Kelly's very happy. And we get to talking about the stress of the pandemic and everything. And I was like, listen, there's two ways to come out of this. You're either going to come out of this better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I used the analogy of the butterfly. They did somebody took a butterfly out of the cocoon without making it without the butterfly having the force to get out of the cocoon, and that butterfly in turn couldn't fly because it didn't have the stress of getting out of the cocoon, so it didn't have the development in its wings in order to fly. So you can either come out of this worse or you can come out of this better. But like, and I've referenced it a number of times, the Make Your Bed book, and the YouTube. It's actually Dana White posted it the other day on Instagram. The speech from Admiral McCraven at the University of Texas, and I would definitely recommend everybody listen to that. It's about 5 to 10 minutes. It might be a little longer, but it doesn't take much time. Go for a walk and listen to it. It's the importance of making your bed, and I've touched about it. I mean, I make my bed every day. My children make their bed every day, and it's just you start your day out on a win. And if you have a bad day when you come home, at least you're going to be able to get into a bed that's made. So, the importance of having a routine and knowing what you're going to do for the day. I've talked to you multiple times. I have pretty much the same routine every day. I get up, I have breakfast, I make sure that the children are good. I take the dog for a walk. I pray, I meditate on that walk, listen to a podcast, come home, do some continuing education, make sure everybody's okay again, and then do a physical workout. So, also the importance of putting your body under stress and making sure that you're not only taking care of your brain, but you're also making sure you're taking care of the vehicle that uh, is your body.
Yeah, because I think the best way to look at this is to sometimes break it down to its parts. So, we're a walking biological, electrical, chemical reaction, right? So, when you do a routine, and we could look at this in a couple different ways, but one way is like you mentioned, Man Mountain doing his deadlift routine, or a basketball player doing a foul shot. You're you're kind of priming your muscle memory when you do the routine. I can speak, from taking foul shots. When I did my rhythm, I'm getting all my nerves ready to make sure that my elbows tucked in, that my hands in the correct position on the ball. That I'm bending my legs and I'm going to draw power from a particular place in my body, and that rhythm helps to prime that muscle memory to be able to execute the correct mechanics.
Yeah, and also your body remembers being successful at doing the activity.
Yep.
I mean, I think you'll see you probably didn't stay with the same free throw routine if you didn't make the foul shot.
No, I mean, I think I could remember changing maybe 3 times at the most throughout, from grammar school through college. But
Yeah.
I once I hit high school, I had the same rhythm pretty much throughout the rest of my career.
I never played basketball at the level that you played at, but my foul shot routine was 2 bounces, a spin bounce back in my left hand, and then move it over to my right and then shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was 2 bounces, get the ball set in my hand, bend my knees, take a look at my target, and then let it fly.
So I think, just not only having a routine, but also the importance of understanding the process. And I think that's something we're going to talk on the next episode. But it's you know Thor didn't go out yesterday and pull 501 kilograms. It might have been the first time he tried it, but I mean, he led up to it. He didn't even do it on his first rep yet, on his first attempt yesterday. The first attempt I think was 420 kilos, and then he went up to 460 kilos, and then he went to 501. And I think if he wanted to, I think he probably could have done either 510 or 520, because I mean, when he did 501, the bar flew up, got a little stuck right above his knees, but like he walked off the platform. He didn't pass out or anything. I mean, when Eddie Hall pulled 500, like he was in the back, like he blew out his nose. He was bleeding from his eyes. He was bleeding from
Oh
his ears.
boy.
He was bleeding from everything. And like,
That's taken off the governor.
yeah. I mean, that was like, I think Eddie Hall even said that like he was willing to die for it. So it was just like, oh, okay. Um, you know,
So I think there's a micro routine, that you picked out here, what they do before the deadlift and what people do before foul shots. But there's also probably a pretty big macro routine, especially for those guys and really any athlete. But that's your whole routine of uh, nutrition, protein synthesis, your circadian rhythm, getting proper sleep, and that probably played that macro routine, was probably set in pace a couple days, a couple weeks beforehand leading up to this.
well, and it's something that he probably had to think about like a year ago. Like, I want to break this record, and this is when I'm gonna do it. Now that might have changed with the pandemic and everything, because as we know, there's no sports going on right now.
Yep.
So he might have jumped it up a little bit. He might have wanted to do it at like the Arnold or at something else at a different show, but he might have changed it. He might have changed it up depending on how he was feeling.
I think
But
that's probably a pretty important buzzword that you can elaborate on probably a lot better than I could, but it's periodization is what they use in the strength and conditioning community to talk about that macro routine.
yeah, I mean, he and you look at a bunch of people, and I'm going to use probably three of them right now. Um, you know, Thornton just one day go into a gym and go, I'm going to pull 501 kilos. I mean, he's worked up to it. I mean, they had his dietitian uh, on the show the other day, and he has to eat 10,000 calories a day.
Holy shit. I don't feel so bad anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, like like most people don't understand these strong men have to eat so much food to get so big. I mean, I think they said he's 6'9", and he's I think 420 pounds. I mean, that's a big man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a normal man plus 220 pounds.
And if he's training 4 6 hours a day, he's burning a lot of calories.
The best, and my son saw it on the back of his shirt. It said, "A little fit, a little fat." So if I can get that shirt, I'm gonna get it because it was hilarious. I mean, I doubt anybody's calling Thor fat, but whatever. So he had a process. He wanted. I mean, I saw the E60 thing on him. They did a special on him. And he wanted to be the world's strongest man. So that was his goal, and he had a process to get there.
So that, like you were saying, if it started a year before that, he probably sat down. I guess maybe I don't know what it'd be for powerlifters, but bodybuilders, it's a little more prevalent. You know, they have their bulk phase, and then they start to cut down, and they have their ripped phase as they get closer to a competition. But I think you could do the same thing with athletes when you have your season coming up, your preseason. You got 2 or 3 months, or you got a whole year before you plan on breaking a world record. You could sit down and plan out how you're going to get to your goal in phases.
Well, that's why you look at it. You look at all the Olympians who, would have been competing next month or in
Mm,
2 months,
yep.
and that got all thrown out of whack. So you have all these Olympians who are like, okay, what's the plan now? And you're going to have some Olympians who would have made the Olympics this year, not going to make it next year.
Yeah.
They're just not going to make it. It's there's a young kid in Omaha who nobody knows of, who's been working their butt off, who's either going to qualify in track and field or going to qualify in the pool that nobody knows of, and they just haven't peaked yet. But they've been putting in the work, and it's going to come to fruition next year. I mean, there's a lot of individuals who were going to break world records and perform at a very high level in a month or two, who you'll never know of because they're not going to make their Olympic team.
Mm.
But as a collegiate swimmer, we would wind up trying to peak twice a year. We would taper for one meet in the fall, which we would build up our yardage and then cut it back, and we wouldn't shave in the fall. But then in the spring, when our big meet was, when our championship was, we would build up our yardage again and shave and taper for the championship meet. And for some people it worked, some people it didn't, and it all depended on how the taper went and how they were feeling. And I think I told you this. One of the reasons I got into this is I missed the school record in the 500 free, which is 20 lengths of the pool. I missed the school record by 2/100ths of a second.
Mm.
I won the race by over 10, but I missed the school record by 2/100ths. I don't remember. Yeah, it was great to win, but I didn't achieve my goal. So like all the athletes I work with, and individuals, I don't want them to feel the way I've felt for the last, what is it now, 28 years, because I still remember it. I mean, I could tell you the time. I could tell you exactly what my time was and what the school record was.
Yeah, that's not going away. Even with
No,
probably serious therapy, that's just not going away.
no, that's not going to go away ever, because I mean,
Well,
that
it's ingrained. It's the competitive stuff is, that's deep stuff that, is yeah, it's driven from our ancestral DNA.
well, I think if you look at most successful coaches, they weren't really they usually didn't reach the pinnacle of their sport. I mean, there was they might have had some success, but they never reached the top of the mountain.
Hmm.
And there was some failure along the way.
Yeah, so they had some ability to reflect on the failures more than
Yeah.
someone who was highly successful.
One and
That's not to say that people who are successful don't fail, because failure is kind of a prerequisite to success.
Yeah, but they also fail forward, which I think a lot of people need to understand. It's like, yeah, you failed here, but let's learn from it and let's move forward. So the next time we have that opportunity, we're in a better position and we can knock it out of the park the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, everybody sees the end results. They don't see the process that it gets people to there. The other individuals that I'm going to talk about, it's like Cameron Haynes, who's the number one bow hunter in the world, and David Goggins. I mean, they everybody sees the end result now, but like, and I was listening to Cameron Haynes yesterday, and he runs a marathon a day on average. So he goes 26.2 every day. He lifts. He's got a full-time job, 40 hours a week, but he does everything he does is so he can go hunt. And that's where what everybody understands. Like he wouldn't run, he wouldn't lift if he didn't think it was going to help him be successful hunting. Everybody sees him running and training and all that stuff, but he was like, once again, the main thing is the main thing, and his main thing is hunting. So everybody's got to understand, like, you know, for your sport, you're training so you can be better at your sport, but you still need to put in the time to get better at your sport.
Yeah. And I think if you subscribe to the idea that it takes 10,000 repetitions of something in order to master it, that's a lot of repetition. And in order to reach that goal, you have to be able to plan out uh, all of the skill work and all the time it's going to take to be able to get those reps in. It's, so you could look at it in terms of the physical training, which is longer term periodization, um, hacking the biological chemical reactions in your body. You could look at it from a standpoint of routine, of muscle memory, like you said, doing the same thing over and over that your body equates success to, but also being able to put a plan together in training that is efficient in terms of getting the number of reps in a particular skill that you need over a period of time.
I think everybody also forgets that, like, going back to The Last Dance, Michael Jordan didn't lift weights when he came into the league. Michael Jordan started lifting weights because the Detroit Pistons were kicking his ass.
Yeah.
Literally. They were beating the crap out of him.
Yep.
And he's like, what do I need to do? Like, I think it was 3 years in a row, Detroit knocked him out of the playoffs. It might have been 2, whatever.
Yeah,
But
it was 2, I think.
I think it was Boston the first year, and then it was Detroit the next 2 years in the conference finals.
Yeah, but they, like, the day after they all decided to go into the weight room and start getting it together, they all got strong thanks to strength and conditioning, and then swept the Pistons the following year.
Well, the funny thing is, they didn't decide. Michael decided. Michael's like, listen here, you sons of. I'm trying to keep it clean.
Yeah.
But, like, we got it. I'm tired of this. And, once again, it gets back to when your best player is also your hardest worker, then the team's going to be successful.
Yeah, it's a leader.
Well, I mean, it's the difference between a coach-led team and a player-led team. I mean, a coach-led team can win, but a player-led team is going to win. Like, in all the teams that I've worked with, when I didn't have to harp on them on being on time and being in the proper clothes, to tie your shoes, to clean up after themselves when they were done training, those teams were successful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ones that I had to babysit, all right, tuck your shirt in, tie your shoes. Why are you 5 minutes late? All that nonsense.
Drink your water.
What?
Drink your water.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't go out Thursday night when you have Friday morning conditioning, because nothing good's going to come out of it, and your teammates are really going to hate you because I'm not that nice.
Yeah.
But the importance of being part of the process and understanding where you lack and where you need to improve so you can be the best version of yourself possible. I mean, at the end of the day, if you do everything and you check off all the boxes, but you don't win the game, you're still going to be successful. I mean, and you'll be successful at life. I mean, I got on a Zoom call last week with one of the teams from Fairfield, and they didn't talk about winning games. They talked about all the training and all the fun times we had. I mean, they didn't see it as fun at the time, but those are the things that they remember. And those are the things that, they thanked me for. Like, I knew they were like, if I could get through your workout, getting through a hard day at work is easy. So,
Yeah. All right. So get a routine, start making plans, and really think about how that's going to affect your performance going into whatever it is that you have coming up.
well, and I would say for the people that are listening to us, take this time to actually reflect on what you want to do
Mm-hmm.
and what makes you happy, and how can you take what makes you happy into being better at what you do, or perhaps into a new career or a new sport or a new activity, or challenge yourself during this time to be better at something that you've always wanted to do. I mean, that was kind of the mantra to my kids last night. Like, this is an opportunity. Take this opportunity to do something that you wanted to do, haven't had time to do, because now you have time, and let's figure out how we can get you to do what you want to do and get better at it.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends about the podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
Be healthy, be safe. All my best. God bless. Take care.
Peace.
See ya.